Hey guys, it's Kevin against me, another movie for guys, continuing my reviews of the Muppet movies. Now this movie I'm going to be reviewing, I really was not looking forward to rewatching this. After Muppet Treasure Island, I knew I really was not going to like this movie. Because this is the movie I heard where you really like it when you're a kid, but you don't like when you're an adult. And I've seen this movie many times when I was a kid. It might actually be my first Muppet movie. Yeah, that's how bizarre this whole thing is. But before we get into the story of this movie, I really do want to give you guys a bit backstory. Basically, after Muppet Treasure Island, there was a show that came out called Muppets Tonight, and it was basically like the Muppet Show. Problem was that in the 90s, a variety show was not really a thing anymore, and that's why it really didn't work, because, variety shows, they were popular in the 70s, but they really weren't in the 90s, and I think that's probably why it got canceled after 2 seasons, and basically, to me, it seemed like they were desperate to make a Muppet film, so that is why they came up with the 1999 sci-fi comedy. Yeah, this is not a musical. That's how bizarre this whole thing is. And that movie is Muppets from Space. Muppets from Space. Yeah, I've seen this movie quite a few times when I was a kid, and I really was not looking forward to watching it. And let's just cut to the chase. This movie is not very good. It's really not. It's a movie where I think kids can enjoy it, but a lot of parents won't, a lot of older kids won't. If you're not, I'd say, like, 9 or 10, you're really not gonna like this movie. It's really not very funny. It was pretty apparent that the Muppets were going downhill, and, it's one of the lowest points for Muppets by far, and also, by far, one of the most bizarre entries in the entire series. It's so strange. Because basically the plot to this film is not about Kermit or Miss Piggy or any of them, it's about Gonzo. Gonzo is basically trying to find his place in the world. He's tired of being called a whatever. He wants to find out what his species is, and he eventually finds out that he is this alien, and all the other Muppets don't believe him when he tells them that he's an alien, so he basically tries to prove them wrong by setting up some kind of like meeting to meet up with them, and that basically is a plot of Muppets from Space, while there's also this, like, government agency that's after him, and things like that. That basically is the plot of Muppets from Space, and yeah, you can tell right off the bat how weird this movie is. Now, let me say right off the bat that the acting, I think, is pretty good, really. It's really good, from the humans, which there really aren't much you can say. Jeffrey Tambor, I think, is one of the most entertaining villains, I think, in the entire Muppet series, because he very much understands satire. His straight man delivery is great. I mean, the way he's saying all these lines, saying it 100% seriously, is really funny. I mean, there's this part of the movie where Gonzo's alphabet cereal starts talking to him, and he plays it completely straight. It's hilarious. It very much reminds me of classic satires like Doctor Strange and my Python films. But then there are points where he does treat it like it's a comedy, and I'm like, oh, well, you had a really good joke there, but then you kind of ruined it, and it started like they had some really good stuff for his character, but then they didn't, and I wish he would have just continued that straight man delivery throughout the movie, which, as the movie went on, he eventually got rid of it, and that kind of sucked, but I think he did a good job overall. He seemed like he was having fun with the movie, and with a movie like this, that's kind of what you have to do, and I think definitely he did a very good job. Now, the Muppets, now everyone else, I will say, the cameos, I will talk about, but the Muppets as an ensemble, of course, they're great. That's something you can always say, is that the Muppets are always going to be great. There's nothing you can say bad about the Muppets. But especially in this film, they have this really cool idea of all the Muppets living together in this one house, and there's no explanation why, but it's just such a cool idea, and it kind of made me wish the plot of the movie was just that, because there's this fantastic montage and everything. The problem is, a lot of the Muppets have almost nothing to do in this movie, and I'm gonna get into that, but they do a good job for what they have, but they really don't have much to do. I'd say the only other Muppet that has more to do than Gonzo and Rizzo is Pepe. Pepe has a lot to do in this movie. Pepe is very funny. This was Pepe's first Muppet film, and he does a very fun job. He's very funny in the movie. And also Bobo the Bear was also very funny as Jeffrey Tambor's assistant. Definitely, I thought he was very good. Kermit has good stuff to do, but a lot of them have almost nothing to do, and it really sucks, and I'll get into that. And again, the movie focuses on Gonzo and Rizzo, which I don't necessarily question because of the fact that the last two films, they've been the narrators, they've been the comedic relief, they've been some of the highlights of the other films, so I can understand why they wanted to focus on them. I can totally understand that. And it really does make sense for them, but it just feels unusual for Gonzo to be the main character when he's always just been a side character. It's just weird. I mean, Gonzo, out of all characters, why not Fozzie? Why not just... It's just weird that they did this, and it didn't really make sense to me very much at all. So yeah, overall the acting is very strange, but but like Pepe the Prawn and Boba the Bear really stole the show for me. They were very funny and they had some very good stuff in the movie. The directing is also very strange, and let me just say that the movie is directed by Tim Hill, and if you guys don't know who Tim Hill is, he directed things like the Garfield films, the Alvin and the Chipmunks films. Yeah, he's not a very good director. He really is not a very good director here, and I really couldn't tell what he was trying to do. There are times in his direction works, but then the idea of this being a science fiction film works better than Treasure Island, but it's just strange. Like, this setting is fine. I don't have a problem with it. What's weird is that I don't like this. I like this movie less than Muppet Treasure Island, but I don't have a problem with the setting. I think the setting works. I think the idea of it being a space film, it works for me, but it just feels weird. It also seems like the creators were just out of ideas at this point. They're just like, yeah, Muppets from space. Yeah, that'll make sense. And it feels a lot more like a cash grab than a smart Muppet film, and that really sucks. It really doesn't seem like a lot of effort was put into this movie. You can very much tell that. Now, the biggest problem with this film by far is the screenplay. And like I said, there are some things I do really love about the movie, and I really do like Gonzo as a character. And him and Rizzo's interactions are great. They're very funny, and they're some of the funniest parts of the movie. But the whole joke of Gonzo is supposed to be that he's this weird entity that we just don't know about, and that's the joke, and that he doesn't care either. He's just a whatever. That's always been the joke, that he is just this whatever from somewhere, and it doesn't matter where he is. So getting this reveal that he is this alien and making a whole film about it really doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And the worst thing about this is that they want you to take this seriously. They don't make fun of this. They do make you take this seriously, and it's stupid. Because the whole joke with Gonzo is gone, and and also, you guys know how much I hate alien reveals. I hate them. I really feel it's the cheapest possible reveal they could do, and again, that really showed me why I don't really think they put a lot of effort into this film, and it felt way too easy to me than it should have been, and just the whole story doesn't work because the whole joke of Gonzo is gone, and I do like seeing Gonzo getting some development. I will say that. I think Gonzo is a character, yeah, he doesn't have a lot to do, but that's kind of the point, but I do kind of like them focusing on him more. He does have some good scenes, but it just didn't really work for me. And also, this movie also is not very funny. It's much more targeted at kids than families. There are some really great jokes here, and there are some very funny jokes. Like I said, everything Pepe and Bobo say, they're very funny. Also, Kermit, I like seeing Kermit as like this, you know, the person that kind of keeps everyone together from going crazy, living together. But even that, they don't do a lot with. They have an opening montage, Shining Star, which is one of the funniest parts of the movie, where you basically get to see the Muppets go through their daily routine. Like, for example, Animal taking a bath in the toilets. You see Rizzo working out with a mousetrap. You see Miss Piggy doing her makeup. It's very, very entertaining. It's the funniest, it's the best scene in the movie by far. It's probably the scene that I love the most, and it really made me wish that was the plot of the movie. They don't do much with it besides that, though. Like, here and there, they'll do stuff, but then the second half, they just kind of drop it because they focus so much on this alien thing, and it kind of sucked that they did that. And also, the wit, the satire, the breaking the fourth wall jokes are all gone, but just like Muppet Treasure Island, every now and again, they try to bring it back. There's some weird jokes in there, I didn't even find them funny because they're outdated references. That's the thing. And Muppet Movie and and The Great Muppet Caper, those movies were not, those were classic movies that you will still find funny today. And this movie is not. There are so many references that I don't understand because they were from the 90s and they're outdated and it just didn't work. It wasn't funny to me. And when they had the breaking the fourth wall jokes in there, it just felt weird. It really did. It did not belong in this movie. And like I said, the other Muppets have almost nothing to do, and this is also the first film, and this I found very interesting. There's barely anything for Miss Piggy and Kermit. Normally, they are the heart of the film, and they're always some of the most fun to watch, but they really have nothing to do. I mean, I can't really remember anything romantic between them. There might have been a scene here and there. The most we get from her is just her saying kissy kissy, and that's it. That's all we really get from Miss Piggy and Kermit. And I have to say, I do like what they do with Miss Piggy in this film. Seeing her as this newscaster, as an anchor woman, basically wanting to have the best story possible. And it very much plays into the idea of her wanting to be famous. And it's very fun to watch, but they just don't really do much with it. Every now and again they'll go to it, but they didn't really do much with that either, which really sucked because they had a really cool idea, but they didn't do much with it, and I wish they would have done more with it because it could have been really funny, and they had more of an opportunity to do something with it, and I don't really feel they did much with it at all. Now, there are some good cameos in this film, but they don't really utilize them. They're just kind of there. They don't have anything that funny to do. Like, for example, they have Rob Schneider in this film. He has nothing to do. He's simply just someone that works at the news, and it's not funny. The thing that works so well in the other Muppet movies is the way they put them into the story, and the way they just kind of pop out. That's what's funny about these. Not just make them characters that have nothing funny to say. If you have cameos, you gotta make it funny. There's some of the highlights of some of the earlier Muppet films and the last two recent Muppet films, which we'll get into. So yeah, it really felt out of place and random, and it didn't really feel like they need to be there. And again, that kind of just felt like, oh, this person's in the movie, come see our movie. That's kind of what it seemed like to me. The movie also takes itself way too seriously, which is something the Muppets should never do. It can be serious times. Like, for example, it worked in Muppets Take Manhattan, it worked in that story, not in a movie like this. This movie should have been completely ridiculous. It should have had more references to space films, and it really should not have been what it is. And I have to say, the reason that I'm so upset about it, I know you guys are like, oh, these movies shouldn't connect. This movie probably would, because they're taking themselves seriously. The whole story of Gonzo's origin is revealed, and that kind of made me feel like this is supposed to be a movie that goes with the other Muppet films. And you would think, and it feels weird. It really does. Also, you would think with this being a Muppet film in space, they have amazing cinematography, but that even feels half-assed. They do almost nothing with it. There are barely any shots of them in space. Even Muppets from Space, I don't even think is a good title, because it should just be called Gonzo's Origin. That's what it should be called, because that's the whole movie. The whole movie is just Gonzo's origin and where he's from and things like that, which again, just feels unnecessary, and the cinematography is not very impressive, and it didn't really seem like they had much of a budget at all, and the movie bombed for a reason. The movie did bomb, and you can definitely tell why, and I definitely found that very strange as well. You think they do stuff with it, but they really don't. Also, the ending to this movie made things feel completely pointless. Just the ending, I was so upset by, and I was just like, you just wasted a whole movie telling me about Gonzo's story, and that's how you end it. It was so pointless. The most bizarre thing about this movie, besides the plot, is the music in this film. This is the first Muppet film to not have a single original song. Yeah, that's one of the things the Muppets are known for. They don't have a single original song in this movie. There are songs in this movie, but it's not a musical like the other ones are. Now, like I told you guys, the songs in Muppet Treasure Island were not very good, so I'm not surprised they decided to cut down on them, but removing them entirely really feels like something is missing. I mean, I'm just sitting here, you're waiting for a song, and it never happens. But the weirdest thing, and I'd be fine if it was replaced with, like, music from the 90s, but no, they replaced it with 70s music. I don't know why. This movie is from 1999. It's not from the 70s. Why are you playing all this 70s music in the background? It's very weird. I mean, every song in this movie is a 70s song. There's, like, Brick House, Get Up Off of That Thing. These are great songs, but they don't belong in this movie, and it made the movie feel a lot more dated than they do, and I have no idea why they chose to put that music in this film. I have no idea at all. and it didn't work at all, really, for me. There was no point where I'm like, I like this music. Brick House, I think it works, but other than that, it really didn't work. And again, I could understand if you remove maybe a couple songs, maybe one or two songs in here, um, but removing them entirely, it just felt like something's missing, and it really, you really do feel like they're missing. I don't feel the Muppets work as well when they don't have music. It doesn't really work for me. Now, despite all my complaints, this movie did, you want to know the weirdest thing about this, guys? This is actually very strange, and I want you guys to know this. This movie actually moved faster for me than the last one did. Yeah, this movie is only 88 minutes, so it makes sense. It's the shortest Muppet film to date, minus a few direct-to-DVD films that I'm going to be reviewing next, which I'm not looking forward to. But it moved by fast, and I was probably into it. I was into it, but probably more than I should have been. I don't know why I was into it so much, but for whatever reason, I found the story interesting. It's not boring. It's a good story, but there's just so much weird stuff about it. Overall, this is just a very weird film. It could have been a lot better. It doesn't understand the Muppets. It had some great ideas, like the Muppets all living together. They just don't really do much with it. There are some fun scenes, but it really just felt like we gotta make a new Muppet movie. We gotta put something new out. There's really nothing to do, and while I do like this film, I just felt there were more opportunities that were not well realized, and unfortunately, the next two films aren't better than this. They're worse. They really don't get better than this movie does, and unfortunately, because of the half-ass in this movie, because of how much effort they didn't put into this movie, I unfortunately have to give Muppets from Space a 3 out of 5 or a C. This movie was very disappointing. I really was not that into it. I wish I would have enjoyed it more than I did, but it really is something you enjoy as a kid and really don't really like when you get older. That's basically my review of Muppets from Space. Hope you guys enjoyed them. I know you guys saw this movie. You have seen it. I really have a lot of problems with this movie. And we'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for, I think, another movie review, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.